I've covered a lot of different types of tech, but I really have been covering VR and AR for a very long time. I reviewed Google Glass when it came out. I looked at the very first Oculus demos and followed that all the way through to the release of the Rift and looked at pretty much everything. There was Gear VR, doing reviews of that, Google Daydream, one-off things like Lenovo's Mirage Solo, if you remember that. There's Magic Leap, where I went to Magic Leap's headquarters before the release of Magic Leap and tried it out. Hololens 2, where I went to Microsoft's headquarters and looked at that on release, and going to Meta's Reality Research Labs in 2022, where I got to look at some of the technology that's in a way in the Vision Pro, some of the realistic avatars that they had, and even things like neural input technology, which I'll talk about in a bit maybe over this time. But anyway, I'm saying that as a big on-ramp to Vision Pro, because when I looked at Vision Pro, I was kind of thinking of it in terms of all the other headsets that I'd seen before. And a lot of amazing moments and a lot of weird moments and things that are almost there. And I've seen mixed reality too on things like Vario's headsets. They're a Finnish startup. So what Apple's did felt like the synthesis of a lot of things I've seen, but a lot of people out there have not tried these headsets. And so what I was trying to do was simultaneously explain it for all the time I've been doing it, but also think about it in terms of you maybe not having followed this and going, what is this about? And what it really is, I mean, Apple's calling it a spatial computer. And in some ways you go, okay, why isn't it a VR headset? And it is a VR headset conceptually. This is closed off. I can see you, but using cameras that pass through high resolution views of that. If the lights were dim enough, you could see these weird low res eyes that blink and move that are scans of my eyes. But that's to create an illusion that I'm looking through this. Really, it's a closed off headset. And it's doing stuff that VR does, which is to show you things as you move around and immerse you. But a lot of VR headsets are doing mixed reality, which is to blend things with the outside and the in, the camera feed of the real world and blending. Apple does that, but they do it at a really high fidelity. Something that I really I've not seen in a self-contained headset before. The 4K micro OLED displays on here are stunning. I'm looking at them right now, and they look ultra crisp, and they particularly pop for things like films. And so that's amazing in terms of an audiovisual experience. But then also Apple's touting it as a computer. And the computer part, it hooks into iOS. So it's an iOS, multi-windowed thing. And that's very different. There have been no other headsets out there that have done that, hooked into all the stuff that you probably already use. Windows users who use VR might be like, Scott, come on, I can do this on Windows. And you can. But that also requires a PC, and a lot of the functionality on that is not intuitively designed to always be for that. You have to have like Steam VR or another in between. So Apple's doing this all self-contained, working with iCloud, kind of feel like an iPad on your face. And then like, where does that go from here? The eye and hand tracking that I have with this is really amazing in that when I look around, anything I pinpoint with my eyes, and then I can pinch, which I just open photos, or I can swipe, or I can expand. I just expanded my photo. Wherever I'm looking, I can expand, like it's reading my mind. That feels like some futuristic air mouse and is a lot more intuitive than Meta's hand tracking, where they already have hand tracking on the Quest, but it's a little more unreliable in my experience, but it's getting better. The one thing Apple that I haven't seen is how this works as an everyday do everything computer. I found the eye and hand tracking sometimes a little unreliable. And then when working with a keyboard or mouse or a MacBook, you could definitely throw your display up and work. But I also find that flow gets a little weird at times, and sometimes an app won't quite work the way I want it to. So that needs to work reliably for me to be a computer. But it is a computer. It's just that, it's got an M2 chip in it. So that's my kind of big thought. And I've only been using this headset for a week and a couple of days, which is more than the average person who's only picking it up today, maybe, because a lot of people won't buy this. And I'm trying to help them understand that on the journey, and I'm going to be trying this out a lot more because I'm sure Apple is going to be updating and finessing a lot of this stuff over the course of the next year and years. That's like a long summary, but that's basically where I'm at with Vision Pro, and I definitely want to hear. I can go in a million directions with this, so I'm happy to take questions, and then we can just kind of branch and talk about different paths that you might want to know? Killer feature. It's a good question. Without a doubt, the first time I tried that, and I can take it off and talk to you too. So, as I wear this, let me say hi to you. Hello. Um, so, Apple first made a big deal about cinema on this. When I first tried it out WWDC, the thing I said in my review was that this is the headset that I want to see 3D avatar in. That is the killer feature. Is that I've seen movies in VR headsets in cinema mode going all the way back. And it's fun, it's immersive, but you're trading off visual quality a lot of the time. The visual quality was superior to my home television, which is not OLED, and it looks stunning. And so it felt like I had a personal cinema on my face. I would like to watch movies like that. I don't know if I'll fatigue from watching them. So that's a killer app, but that's not, for $3,500, that's not going to be a price that people are going to want to pay for a personal cinema. But I do think that's the most killer feature on it. I think the other things in descending order, things like this is not an app, but the eye and hand tracking is fascinating. But what do you do with it? So spatial photos and video, which is Apple's other big feature that they're touting, they're 3D videos that you can shoot on your iPhone or shoot on the headset. They're really compelling. And I keep wondering as I'm using it, is it the quality of the display or is it the size and immersiveness? Because a colleague, Bridget Carey, looked at some of hers and I was interested in hearing her reactions. And you can look at the playback of my capture on the CNET review, and it looks like it's being very windowed out, and you're like, okay, whatever. But the scale of it in headset looks life size. And so it kind of feels like I'm sitting across from my mom, and it feels like I'm almost in that world. And I kind of want the rest of it to bleed away. Apple has an immersive video format that's like almost like VR 180 if you've looked at that technology, all the way out to here, and the spatial video is out to here. Eventually, if they get out to here, I feel like you're going to be using this to like telepresence into things. So I think that's also a killer app. But I'm surprised that there aren't more killer apps for this that really do the immersive things you'd find on like a VR headset. But it's interesting. Oh yeah, hello, yeah. Absolutely. It's a really good question. So, Apple has not confirmed the actual field of view for this, which is also probably telling because if it was better than other VR headsets, Apple would probably be sharing that spec. So, it seems smaller than the headsets I've used before. I think it definitely is smaller. The field of view on a lot of VR headsets I've used seems to be in around the 110-degree range. So, I'll describe this in terms of my hands. It kind of looks like I'm looking at it like this a little bit. And it definitely is a bit of a scuba mask, And especially when you first boot it on, you might be like, wow, the field of view is smaller. But what's interesting is that as I use it, the intensity of the display, the crispness of it, and the rest of the fluidity of the interface really does make that bleed away. And so I don't really notice it that much. That being said, I wish it was larger. Um, so that's definitely one of the trade-offs on this headset. And some people have pointed out when I shot videos, the lenses are smaller than on the Quest 3. So it's a different type of lens design. I don't know if that also may factor into it. So um, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the question is how much battery life does this actually have with this considerable battery that's here? This is one of the things that is very different about Vision Pro than any other standalone headset. I mean, once you plug into, excuse me, just burped, but once you plug into, like PlayStation VR 2, you're cabling it all the time. PC VR headset. It's not as it doesn't have power. Other ones have the battery built into the front or the back. Apple decided to make this whole standalone thing. And there have been a lot of discussions about this online in terms of milliamps versus like watt hour, just in terms of the power of this battery. What does it actually equate to? It's pretty beefy, is what I think it is in terms of the throughput. They have a special cable here, which some people online, and Ray Wang at Inverse had popped this out. It looks like a lightning cable, but it's thicker than a lightning cable. So it suggests to me that it's like very very particular power needs, and the battery life has been about 2 hours ish. In terms of, I'm still waiting to run it down completely because I often get nervous around 30% and plug it in because I'm using it for something. But I'm going to start doing some actual full battery drain tests. Some people have said they've gone through a whole movie, that it could get up to 3 hours on video playback. I've actually found that when I've been using it for about half an hour, it didn't drain as much as I thought it would. It might still be about like 70%, but it's not as quickly draining as I thought. But it definitely requires you to be near a charger, and 2.5 hours, 3 hours is still going to be the thing that you're not going to go out for the day with this and not bring a way to charge it up. This battery is a thing, and this battery is heavy. It's 0.75 pounds. It feels definitely heavier than an iPhone, and you could stick it in your pocket, but you'd feel it. And I guess Belkin sells like a strap carrier for it. It's fine if you're walking around the room, but I feel like as I've been using Vision Pro, I want to sit down. And Apple's demos have all been sitting down. It's not surprising. It's very much a sit and browse type of thing. If you've been using VR for a while, you might be really annoyed by that and go, are you kidding me? I walk around in the Quest. It's all standing and activity and fitness. That's what it is right now. I think Apple right now is, you can stand and use this. But I think with this battery, you're going to want to sit down and you're going to want to sort of work on a computer or sit on the sofa. It just seems like that type of device. Great question. And this is one of the weird things that I saw coming for a while with Vision Pro. No, you cannot wear your glasses with Vision Pro. And I'm really frustrated that a lot of VR headsets have been doing this over the years. Vive XR Elite, HTC's headset last year, didn't work with glasses, and neither did their mobile VR headset. And some AR glasses for a while have asked to do prescription inserts. And it's like, a lot of times they wouldn't fit my prescription in the past. I'm over -8. And they would often say, oh, we don't have your prescription. And I would say, I know. It seems like prescription lens wearers have gotten over that hump for me, where I can now get them for the Quest 3 and Meta's glasses and for these. But you cannot wear glasses with these. Instead, you have to get prescription inserts, which I have in here, from Zeiss. And they run about $99 or $100 to $150. And they just magnetically pop in, which it's nice that they just pop in. And they just snap on and that's it. But then you have to get those. And then if you're going to share it with anybody and they have glasses, they're going to have to get lenses too, or wear contacts. You can wear contacts with these. But this is one of those compromises or decisions that Apple made that it's not going to fit people with glasses. And I think it also means that the lenses get closer to your eyes for the design of this headset. But Quest has spacers to fit glasses. The Meta Quest Pro, which I brought along with me, that can fit glasses narrowly and fit them. So yeah, it's just part of the package on this early product. Yeah. So how are the speakers on these? Are they good? Do they give good bass? What do they sound like? How do they work? Good question. And they're really good. They're really good speakers, but they're not isolating. They're open design. So if you're sitting next to somebody, you can hear what they're playing. I mean, it's kind of like if you've been on a Meta Quest and you can hear a little bit of it. And if you're playing something really loud, yeah, like I was watching a movie next to my son and he was like, can you turn down whatever you're playing? Like it definitely felt like I was doing something next to him. That's what AirPods are for, Apple would say, and so you could pop those in. It's interesting. I popped in AirPod Pro 2 buds, the USB-C, which is the lossless one that Apple recommends for better audio, and they say is a little less lag. So I found the sound was pretty equivalent between the AirPod Pro 2 and the built-in buds. In fact, I liked the built-in speakers here a little more. I felt like they had a little more, I don't know, for volume, or David Carnoy, who's the headphone reviewer, will kill me for not using proper terminology here. But I feel like they felt a little more room filling in my head for the feeling of being in a cinema. They're punchy. The one thing is that I didn't feel like they went quite as loud as I wanted, and I've been going to the settings and wondering if I put volume limiting on, or whether I've been ruining my ears, and I just feel. I mean, it's not that it doesn't get loud. It's just that when I'm sitting in cinema mode, I want it to get like thunderously loud, and I didn't feel like it was getting there, but it's still loud. But it sounded really good and much. I mean, it is much better than the Quest. The Quest has really fine speakers. They're not fantastic, but they're good. This, between the video and the audio, again, they're boasting Dolby Atmos support for this. Like this really feels like it matches the fidelity of the display, that you're getting like a really good sound experience. Oh yeah, triple live. Yeah, we're across the board. Okay, fire away. I can also just start showing you parts to it too, which would be good. Yeah, I think it's 5. I think it's 5 feet. Um, it's short in that it will not stretch across a room, and it's not even designed for that. This is like, and it has fallen off a table a couple of times. So if you get up and you have not grabbed the battery's going to fall. And I've been like, oh crap, let me grab that. So it's definitely something you have to remember to bring with you, and it's another reminder maybe why Apple doesn't have fitness with this, why they're not really into you getting up and walking too much. You could tether this battery then to uh, a power thing, and then have that long cable. But you basically going to keep this near you is the answer. And then nobody asked me this, but how it connects is super weird and interesting. It has a totally proprietary cable that locks on. This is not a power connector that Apple has ever made. It looks like a little metal ring with little kind of metal lock dots inside, and you put it in. How to get this? You have to put it in at a 45-degree angle upwards, and then lock it down. And so that may seem really annoying, but it made sense in that they don't want this cable coming out, because this is the only source of power. If that, like a USB-C thing, if somebody pulled that out, I mean, it wouldn't ruin the headset, but you just lose everything that you were doing. It would just, there's no battery here, it would just go out. So this is designed to stay in no matter what. That being said, what happens if someone yanks this? Um, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what happens. Don't do that, because this is not coming out of the headset. It's not MagSafe, unless there's a breakaway that I don't know about. So actually, you just heard it chime up. That's also the power. There's no power button on this headset. If you put this cable on and attach it, it powers up the headset. And when you want to power it down, you just detach the cable, which feels like you're doing something wrong. I thought like, oh, do I have to shut it down first? There is no shutting down. So it's kind of interesting. Though there is a secret shutdown that I discovered the other day, because somebody asked me, what happens if you press and hold the two buttons on top? And much like an iPhone, if you press and hold them for a little while, it will bring up an emergency shutdown. I think that's like your phone, where if everything is failing and something is just not working, you could do that. But I can also get into some of the button features in a moment. And this cable does not come out of the battery. That's like, unless you SIM card pin it out, that's a bonded thing. you would have to hold it, or Belkin sells a battery holder for $50. That like goes around your, like a strap that goes around you. You can wear it. So yeah, that's weird, and it goes back to maybe you don't walk around. You just keep this, you keep this next to you, keep it on your desk. It's not a big walk around type of thing, although you could walk. I think it's meant to kind of stay relatively in one place. Yeah, right. So what operating system is the Vision Pro running, and do you need another Apple device to set it up? So the operating system is called VisionOS, but it's very iPad OS based. It doesn't look like iPad OS. It looks kind of like a combination of Apple Watch, iPad, and a little bit of Mac, but it runs a lot of iPad apps in a compatibility mode. When you open it, it brings up this grid of apps that's almost like the Apple Watch, and you cannot configure the grid of apps. So a lot of people are getting annoyed about that it's alphabetical order and Apple's apps are at the front. I feel like they'll change that at some point, but we're like at day one. I mean, it is annoying, but you could also search for apps with Siri, and kind of is what it is. But organizing apps might be frustrating. And then you just swipe through and get this grid of, page grid after page grid of apps. When you open up an app, they open up in these floating iPad. Well, they're almost more like Mac windows because they're big, and you can resize them at the corners by whenever you look at anything, it activates. So if you look at a corner appears like a white icon, and you kind of you pinch it, and you drag it. And if you want to close a window, there's an X at the bottom that appears only when you're looking at it, or there's a bar that you can grab and move the window around. And iPads have limited multitasking. This has unlimited, as far as I can tell. Like you can open up. I have not. I have not hit a limit on the number of apps that I can have open at once. I've tried like 12. I should probably try more. Like I've just go open up, and they're kind of all overlapping each other. That's incredible, and also could be like a little bit surprising and cluttery. You can also open 3D apps and leave those in addition to the 2D apps, which is something that VR headsets don't do. So a lot of the apps right now, which are pretty simple puzzle and other games, like what the golf, you could open up that, have it floating here, or a chessboard, and also bring up 2D apps and multitask. There are some apps that will launch that are only in that experience, that go into almost like a VR mode. But multitasking is definitely part of it. There's a control center on top that only appears when you look at it, like a little fairy that you have to invoke when you look up, and a dot appears and you click. It's totally weird. And that brings up a lot of control center commands. There's settings, but they're not everything. It has AirPlay, it has AirDrop. It doesn't have all the in-depth settings that you might expect, and it works with some accessories, but not all. It works with the Magic trackpad and keyboard. It does not work with a mouse yet, and and then that's what the OS is. And then there's the extra part that you can mirror a Mac into it, which allows you to float a Mac monitor from a nearby Mac. But that's not the same. It's not like you won't be able to grab things in that monitor with your fingers. That'll only be controlled with the keyboard and trackpad, and then you can float other apps all around it. And that's my best way of describing VisionOS. It's just like a lot of floating iOS apps and experiences in this headset. The other question you had was about something. What were you talking about? Yes, other Apple devices. So I set it up with the iPhone. I think you can just set it up with an Apple ID, though. You don't need an iPhone, but it makes it very easy. Um, if you ever set up an Apple product and they say, bring the other Apple product to this product, and it will recognize it, and you scan it and ports over your stuff. That's what I did. So it just made it very simple. The iPhone automatically knew I was setting up a Vision Pro. It just said, Vision Pro detected. Do you want to sync? But again, some people may not have anything like that. They may just set it up with their own Apple ID. It really does feel like setting up an iPad or a Mac in that regard. It goes through a lot of standard setups and things like that. So I hope that helps. So it's kind of, again, kind of like the iPad. It could do both. There is storage on the device, and there's a Files app, just like iOS and Mac. So you can save locally to 256 gigabytes of storage on this model, on the 3499 model. This model is the 1 terabyte, but there's a 3499 model. There's the 3699 512 gigabyte. Then there's the 1 terabyte to store things. But then there's also iCloud, and iCloud has storage tiers. So it's basically the same as any other Apple device in that it uses the iCloud storage. Um, you could also do other cloud storage, I guess, as well. There's Microsoft and other things. Google does not have its apps available on Vision Pro yet. You'd have to go through the browser. But yeah, it's fully. What's really cool is it's fully hooked in for all those things. Um, so it's very flexible in terms of how you want to share things and download them or upload them.
Awesome. And then, so Scott, just to also, for anyone just joining us, we are live on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram all at the same time. So thank you so much for joining us. I am Tara, fielding the questions to Scott that you have about the Apple Vision Pro. Given it's also Apple Vision Pro launch day. So another question that we have been getting a lot. Ready, Scott? So adult entertainment on the Apple Vision Pro. If you could confirm, deny, give people what your expertise on the Apple Vision Pro and that topic.
So let's talk about adult entertainment. Children, leave the room, please. go somewhere else. You can go get a snack. Um, yeah. So everyone's going to ask about that. The first thing you think about the high resolution headset. I was curious as well. So let's just start with Google YouTube VR 180. That's a very popular format. YouTube, none of that stuff plays in immersive VR 180 format on the headset. It's surprising because you can do that on a Quest, and it's easy to do, and it's very browser supportive with that. So that's not possible. And yes, out of curiosity, to answer this question, I did check the site you're probably thinking of and tried an immersive video, and let's just say it did not play in immersive. So I'm sorry, that is not one of the uses for this headset right now. I mean, you can play videos in the browser. Apple's answer so far as to not that, but to the immersive VR 180 format is that they're focusing on their own um, immersive video platform, which is on Apple TV Plus, and there were questions from them of whether it was really compatible or the same resolution. Lots of VR headsets play 360 and videos and things. So I don't think that's a real answer for that. What I'm hoping is that it gets resolved. I hope Google makes up with Apple. I hope Apple makes up with playing immersive videos. I hope that all flows together. Because right now, yeah, it's also just questions about how much the browser works with WebXR and other things like that. I've seen some things that didn't seem to work, and so there's your answer. Sorry. Yeah. There's the Quest. There's the Quest is the Quest is the one that does those things.
And again, how long have you had the Apple Vision Pro with you?
Yeah, so I've had the
To
Apple
do
Vision
all this
Pro
testing?
since last Wednesday. So it has only been a week and 2 days. So it has been still a really short period of time, but I guess longer than many, which is, I mean, I'm glad to have had the time with it, but it's still very early days. And I've been doing a lot of stuff on my own. One thing I haven't done a ton of is collaborating with people, although I had a 2 hour call with somebody in FaceTime where they also had a Vision Pro, and we were doing persona to persona chat while I was working. And it felt like I was just hanging out with an old friend for a while. It was really cool. It made me think that there's a lot of collaborative stuff that I really want to know about doing on this headset. Um, and I haven't seen yet.
And with this, I mean, you've used a ton of different, Apple products, not necessarily ones that you've fully reviewed, but people want to know exactly how you think the Apple VR fits into the whole Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, so Vision Pro, I think down in the like there's the down the road question and there's the right now question. We start with the right now question. The right now question is that it's not a replacement for anything that you have. It's really in its own territory. I think the closest analogy I could think of is the iPad, where, when the iPad came out, people were like, that's cool, but I already have a laptop and I already have a phone, so like, what do I need this extra product for? And I think that in a way, the Vision Pro is almost like magic super duper headphones for your eyes, but it's more than that. And the price is a lot more than that. And it's a standalone thing. So not, I mean, in the sense, you can connect your Mac to it and make it an immersive monitor. So it could be a way to look at your Mac on a big display, but it doesn't do that for other devices yet in the lineup. It doesn't work with the iPhone or iPad like that, or it doesn't work with the Apple Watch. So then the rest of it is really like, do you want to work on this on its own as a computer and see immersive things in it? And so that kind of puts it in its own territory, even though it works a lot of stuff in iCloud. But where I think it can go is I think it could and will work with Apple's other products. Like Qualcomm, who's been leading the way on VR and AR for a lot of years now, with most of the products that are out there. They've been looking at a lot of solutions that work with phones. And I think a lot of stuff we're going to see is a return to some phone connected, lightweight glasses that can do some VR and AR things, but use most of the phone for the processor and battery. And it's interesting because Apple may not do that right away, but there's no reason why the phone couldn't be held near the Vision Pro. And why can't you like make things sprout from it, or why couldn't you be watching this on TikTok and then just kind of have it bloom into Vision Pro? You can do handoffs, like you could definitely AirDrop or hand off something to watch, but I feel like there needs to be more of an interconnection between all the devices. And it's like, I'm sure it will happen because Apple's already been doing that. Like there's already ways you can make the iPhone a camera for your laptop, or make the iPad an extra display for your Mac. And I think those interconnections are really Apple's strongest territory here, what they can do, because they already have this family of products that they keep very maintained.
YouTube, our question, sorry. We have more, of course, about the Vision Pro. We have one from online vid, and they want to know, is it possible to transfer spatial videos from an iPhone 15 Pro to that Vision Pro without going through iCloud?
Yeah, you can always AirDrop them in. So, in fact, I did that with a demo with Apple where I was using their headset and it wasn't on my iCloud account. So I just AirDropped stuff over and it played. So all those things, that's basically the way to do it. There's no USB-C port or anything, so you can't directly plug in and sync. It will all have to be wireless in some form, but you basically are going to be able to either do it through AirDrop, or you're going to kind of triangulate through iCloud or the Files app, which again is kind of a similar thing with iCloud. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
And
By the way,
question. Yep. Sorry.
I don't know if people were interested, but I can also show you some of the accessories. This is the cozy that comes with it, which I call it the cozy. That covers up the display. It's actually like pretty essential because this is glass here and aluminum, and I would not want to break it or scratch it. And Apple only recommends using a microfiber cloth to polish it. So I just keep this on to cover it all the time. It's also padded. And these things magnetically snap on and off, which is super easy, but don't grab the headset by these face pieces because they'll just fall off. And these straps just come off by pulling the orange tabs. It's actually super simple, which once I understood that, it was easy. I like the way the accessories attach. Meta, please do things like this because I feel like they're a lot easier. They're more expensive, but they're a lot easier to detach. This is the uglier of the two head straps, by the way, but much more comfortable. Looks like a CPAP strap. The one that Apple also includes with the headset is the Solo Knit, which is super cool, but also feels fatiguing after a little while. It's great for casual sharing, and they also just snap on. So I just wanted to show you that. But
you're giving us a demo, just like what people would get in the stores today, because it is the launch day, and you can get demos done of the Vision Pro in Apple stores starting today. Another question for you though from YouTube, Jim Monroy wants to know, can you mirror an iPad like you can with the Mac?
No. And that's so weird to me. Thank you for asking that, because when I first heard about Vision Pro, I actually thought the device it would work with was the iPad, because it actually shares the iPad app ecosystem. And I think that the reason that Apple made it connect with the Mac first is because of the fact that Mac apps will be left out of the loop here, because this is running iPad and iOS stuff. And then you might say, well, I have a Mac thing. What do I do? So they made this ability to mirror the Mac monitor, which is great. But I totally agree with you. I think that also the iPad is smaller. So, I'm already using an iPad with a Magic Keyboard. I just feel like the great pairing with this would be that. You work on your iPad with the keyboard and the trackpad, and then you have the headset on, and it's more compact. And so hopefully they'll do that. Same thing with you can't mirror an iPhone, which is weird, because you'd think you can look at the iPhone and iPad through the pass-through cameras and then just kind of work on it, which is weird, but you could do that. But I want it where you can hold it up and then it just kind of turns into a virtual iPhone or iPad, and you can do that. But maybe that will happen.
And we have another question from IG and from Instagram, from KJL. It's so like talking about the ways in which that the Apple Vision Pro can be used. It's not like a computer; it's more like a monitor, or is there a certain way you would say it's more useful? Or spatial computing is what they're saying.
Oh yeah, so in terms of how you can use the Vision Pro, is it just like a monitor or is it a computer? No, it's definitely a computer. So what's interesting is there's the monitor part of it, which is that it will do a Mac virtual display, but it runs apps and downloads apps. So basically think of it like an iPad. You can download, it's a very expensive iPad, but you can download tons of apps onto it, as many as will fit in storage. There are games, there are productivity apps. I think they have 600 apps at launch, which is a lot. But a lot of them are like little things and little, it's like the early days of the iPhone App Store, experimental little jokey things or serious things. And then there are also compatible apps, just iPad apps. And there are like, Apple said there are like 1 million of those. So not every app that's on the iPad App Store. There are definitely missing ones, like Netflix or YouTube or Gmail. But there are a lot on there too. So you can just keep downloading those and using those, and you don't need a Mac or anything else. You can pair a keyboard and trackpad and just work on this. You can just work like I've done that. And I think that would be an amazing way to work, except for the fact that some of the interface stuff is still a little bit weird. Totally works with trackpad and keyboard. The eye and hand tracking, sometimes on very small icons on not Vision Pro optimized apps, are a little hard to focus and click on. So, and also in Safari. So I would love a 3D version of a trackpad, something that if Apple made a controller that you could just browse easily, but they don't have anything like that yet.
Gotcha.
Also, before, can I tell you too about the case? I just want to show. I'm just going to be like,
oh yeah,
show you toys.
How much is that
curious, case? $. Now, that's actually not. There are cases that cost that much in the world, but that's more than Meta's accessories. This is the only carrying case that Apple sells, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more. I do think you should have a case for the Vision Pro, one that protects it really well. This case feels like a North Face jacket on the outside. It's like feels like a parka, and then inside it's firm but padded. There's like a microfiber, has a little pouch for carrying accessories. You can put your charge cable, which comes with it, in there. Your battery tucks into this thing, which is a little strange. I wish there was a little more secure connection for the battery. But then the headset goes in here. The one important thing about this case, and where I think you'd want to be careful with finding cases, is that Apple has this nice cozy here, but they don't have anything to protect the lenses, which is a little strange. There's no cover here. I get worried about the lenses. So this case tucks in, and the lenses, you can adjust it. The lenses get protected here. I just feel like that's what I want to care about. And then you can put stuff in here. I wish this had like an extra compartment or pocket. Hovering the battery above it makes me nervous. Like if you tighten it, it goes on top. But the case is nice and sturdy. There's no real better option. But that does not come included. The straps come included, the extra straps, but not the carrying case.
And going with that, people want to know. I mean, on TikTok, we had a question: have you dropped it, and how durable you think it is? I know you have to be really careful when taking off the Vision Pro because of how parts are magnetic, and you just don't. It could literally just drop.
Yeah, I've not dropped it. I'm sorry, and I don't intend to, because Apple is. I mean, look, we could. Somebody could buy one and drop it. We didn't. We didn't buy one for a drop test yet, but I'll tell you if we will. The to me, it's like, what would happen if you dropped a like a Mac Pro on the ground? Like, it's not good. It's not. An iPhone is made for dropping. iPads are not really made for dropping. This is, I think, definitely not made for dropping. Though Apple claims that they've done drop tests and durability tests and that it will be okay. I could just see the glass shattering here. I don't feel positive about what would happen because it's very dense
Mm-hmm.
and metal and glass. I think, unfortunately, I don't usually like recommending protection plans for products if they aren't absolutely necessary. But with something this new, it feels like a protection plan is kind of a must. And the unfortunate thing is that the plan that Apple sells is $500, but will protect it, I think, against multiple cases of damage. And we just don't know what's going to happen with this thing. Plus, there's a lot of VR headsets have a lot of pieces that could get loose or damaged. Or what happens to this? What happens to this over time? Or what if there's something that lenses are a little motorized? There's a lot. There's a lot of things that
Yeah.
we just don't know with this.
And there's another chat. So much about the battery to also just go in another direction from YouTube. This chat's from, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name wrong, IBN Al Hakim. He's asking, is it possible to use the battery as an emergency power bank for your iPhone via the USB-C port? I'm not sure if you've tried that.
I have not tried it. That is an interesting question. I could try it right now. Should we just try it? Let's just. I mean, I have a USB-C cable right here, so let's just find out. I weirdly didn't do this before. I was gonna say no, but let's just see. We'll find out what happens.
Learn something new every day, especially with this kind of product.
Nope.
Nope.
Oh wait. Now hold on a second. I'm gonna try one more time. It said accessory connected.
Mm. And Travis, thanks for asking. On YouTube, I have not tried the Vision Pro, unfortunately. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll get a demo.
I think the
But
answer
I'm
is
not
no.
starting.
The answer is no. This doesn't do that. In fact, what it might be doing is pulling the battery from your phone and charging
Oh,
the Vision Pro
oh
battery,
no.
because USB-C will do that. So no, it won't. It won't do that. It won't charge it up. It's purely for the Vision Pro. It's a very particular battery. Sorry to bother you about that. I'm not sorry to bother you. Sorry to disappoint you. But the other thing is that if you're going to carry this to go, then you're going to want to. This is a giant power bank, but you're going to need to be sort of living like this, where you're going to have a battery and then another battery to charge up this battery, possibly, or which you could do, or just a power plug. So
Yeah.
that's kind of. I wonder if Apple will sell larger capacity batteries. That's another possibility. I mean, if they made them this big, why not make them twice as big and maybe, hopefully, not twice as expensive?
Very true. Going into that, we have a lot of questions from Instagram and TikTok too about like verses because you're our AR/VR expert, AR/VR expert. You've tried pretty much. I'm not gonna say all of the VR experts VR headsets on the market because there's so many, but specifically, people on Instagram and TikTok are asking about the Hololens and also, of course, the one you expect, the Quest 3. So, if you want to talk about some of your verses and your thoughts on these other headsets on the market with
I
Apple
I
Vision
am.
Pro.
Oh, is that okay? Thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
have not a Quest 3, unfortunately, but I have something that kind of bridges the gap. I have a Quest Pro, which is almost like what you said. It's like both, kind of. The Quest 3 is at home, but actually, this is probably the best comparison in a lot of ways, because the Quest Pro is Meta's headset that has eye and face tracking. Um, And I didn't include the battery pack here, so let's not forget that there's a battery pack with the Vision Pro. That's not a self-contained thing. So include that, but you can see that, and also the Quest Pro comes with a cover for its glass cover. That there's some similarities here. I mean, size-wise, the Vision Pro is very VR headset-like. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, this is like Apple's design version of the Quest 3. Um, I mean, the Quest Pro has a more HoloLens-like plastic band design with the battery in the back, which is something that a lot of headsets do go with, and it balances the weight better. The lenses here are bigger on the Quest Pro, but there's definitely some similarities going on. How they compare, so I think in a lot of ways the Quest Pro is kind of like a replacement for AR headsets like HoloLens and Magic Leap, and not entirely the same thing. But a lot of these pass-through VR headsets are basically giving you the ability to float virtual objects in the real world in the same way that HoloLens is doing. And it's interesting because HoloLens also, I think they were the first ones that had a pinch and tap and interface with eye tracking. So in a way, what Apple's doing with their headset feels like it's almost coming from HoloLens, but with the potential to do more advanced hand tracking too. Whereas the Quest also has hand tracking, but the hand tracking is not quite pinch based. It is, well, it is actually. When I did the interface recently, it is like a laser pointer that you're pinching, but it feels a little more like you're throwing a laser pointer because there's no eye tracking. Even the Quest Pro, which has eye tracking, doesn't have it on for the interface. That's a big difference, and it's for battery savings. I mean, Apple basically was like, we're going to keep it on all the time, but we're going to have this giant battery. Quest Pro, we're not going to have it on all the time, no giant battery. And Quest Pro uses eye and face tracking for avatars. So if there's some avatar use for it, but a lot of times it's not turned on, and there's no optic ID. The other interesting thing that Apple did that I haven't seen on another headset is do authorizations with an iris scan. That so for payments on other ones, it's usually like a PIN code, and which is not great. There's no Touch ID or anything on the fingerprint sensor on the Quest Pro. So I think optic ID is really big for doing purchases and doing things like that. But you can see that the fit feels differently. But the Quest Pro fits over my glasses. That's the thing. It's still a bit of a tight fit. Like, it definitely comes right up to my glasses, but it works. And with this on, with the peripheral vision, I always thought the Quest Pro reminded me of HoloLens, where you can get peripheral view. Apple really seals off. I mean, they call it the light seal, but they really seal off the outside world. In exchange, you can see the outside world through the display, but you're not going to see someone come up out of the corner of your eye with the Quest Pro on. You're going to see them with the through the cameras on this. But I think to answer that even a little bit further, I think what Apple's doing with the quality of the pass through, the quality of the display, and the hand tracking immersively in your world than pretty much any mixed reality headset I've ever tried, and that's a real difference maker. So it's not quite AR. Some people who work in industrial AR. I mean, if you want, we could talk all the way down the road about this. Some people who work in industrial AR and training have been very adamant in the past, saying like, it's not the same thing, because if you're working on a factory floor, you could get seriously damaged using pass-through cameras because you have to see your real vision unimpeded. And that's why I also would say do not cook while wearing a Vision Pro. Don't do cooking. Don't ride your bicycle. Yes, it has very good low latency, but you're still looking at this through a display that could fail. And I already cut my finger once without a Vision Pro on. Like, don't do that. But I think that that's a big difference in that see-through technology that eventually we'll see in glasses. But I think it's like really high quality, and that is really intriguing.
And we had a question from Instagram from the Chaotic Snob asking, going on this, because you've been using it quite a bit, obviously, this past week and few days. Do you feel like it's been giving you eye strain at all?
No, but I am thinking about that because anytime you spend a lot of time in VR, it could produce eye strain. Apple recommends that you take breaks. Everyone in VR recommends you take breaks. They recommend also that you not be 13 years old, whether you be 13 and older. You know, they're not meant for kids. I use prescription lenses with mine. If I've been using it for over an hour, which sometimes I do, I slip into worlds in here and I kind of forget I'm in the headset. And I take it off. It kind of feels like I've been reading for a while, where I just go like I need to do something else. It's an interesting question for long-term use. I think there needs to be more thought about this. I do think there can be eye strain, and your eyes are focusing differently too. You know, there's something called like varifocal displays that companies like Meta are working on, where they want you to be able to focus at different distances, like your eyes do. In VR, you're not actually doing that. Everything is, the screen is always a certain distance, and your eyes are kind of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you call it, but they're kind of like relaxing into seeing the 3D. And there can be strain from that, and there could be some fatigue. So I would say it's unclear after a week, but there are times where I feel like I need a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's a good question about using it as a computer. If you're going to be working on something, people can be at their computer for like hours. And what would happen if you're in the Vision Pro for hours and hours? I think the longest I've been in it now is like 2 hours, and it felt fun. But then I was like, wow, I can't believe I've been in that so long. Hello, real world. Like that. That was the feeling I had, even though I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
my world.
And then also, like, one of the biggest things with Apple is just Find My, like, in case you lose it. I think this would be a pretty hard object to lose. But on Instagram, Mansers wondered if does it have Find My support. I'm not sure.
Let's find out. I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go onto my phone and see if the Vision Pro shows up. I actually haven't tried this. Oh wait, it's not plugged in. So I'm gonna plug it in, and then I'm gonna let this thing start up. Let's see what happens. I feel like it might,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting question. The big problem, though, as you just noticed, the big problem with why Find My would have an issue is that when you detach this battery, it's off, like off, off. And Find My works with devices that are in standby. Like your MacBook's in standby, your phone's in standby. These things are still kind of on with a battery charge, able to do something. So I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
happens. Maybe it tells you the last time you've used it. I didn't see it on my list to Find My, though, but I'm going to have to confirm that.
Okay, yeah, no worries. We can go through that. Um, Another question, though, which is actually funny because Bridget's One More Thing episode just came on, and we kind of touched on this a little bit from YouTube. Richard C. wants to know, can people catch with it and use other people's faces for face scanning, or does it confirm you? Will you be able to download face scans and use as your own? That's a lot of questions, but we kind of did a little bit because, Bridget got to use yours, right? And when we did
Yeah.
that One More Thing
So, and as I'm
episode.
looking for Find My, and I do not see the device showing up. So that may be an answer there. The Can you use someone else's persona? So it's interesting. The question basically is no, but so persona is set up to your Apple ID, and it's on device. So Apple was adamant that it gets scanned one persona per person for the device, and you can't have multiple ones as a result. And if you could always redo it, so you could hold it in front of you and rescan your persona. It's always a photoreal scan based on your face scan, and it's meant to just really represent you. And then you have Optic ID to log in, so that it would have to do the Optic ID to confirm you. If somebody else put the headset on, well then they say no, it's not you, and you couldn't use that. And guest mode, which I tried with Bridget, does not have any persona set up. Now that being said, you don't have to have Optic ID on, and you can also use passcode. And we tried doing passcode entry, and my eyes seemed to be on Bridget's face when she was using the headset, but we did not go ahead and fully have her make FaceTime calls. We're going to do that, see what happens. I'm also really curious if I can like scan someone else's face here in the office as my face for persona. I would think the answer is yes, because it's not it's not doing any Apple's not doing face authentication here to confirm that it's you. So I think I could. That being said, I'm not sure. So that is an interesting question, and I don't know the full answer to yet. But the thing is that it's not like your persona is being stored on iCloud, and it's not something that someone could log in and use. Even if someone somehow had access to your account, they need that particular headset to use. Like, it's only stored on there. So
And so still so many questions coming in. Love it. Another one from TikTok from a Reu, Reaux. Can it use PC VR?
no, you can't use PC VR at all. And so that's a big disconnect for anyone who's in the VR landscape now, who thinks about, like the Quest has a huge fringe benefit or main benefit for people in that it can be a VR headset for PC. And so it can be standalone, but it can also connect to a PC, and that just gives it tremendous flexibility for what you'd be doing. Apple is only limiting it to their particular ecosystem of apps and their family of products. So that's going to shut a lot of people out. And it's also making Apple rebuild a whole new landscape without partners that have been in this space for a while. And there's definitely tension with that. I've already seen a lot of developers that are wondering how they're going to do stuff with this, or if they're going to do stuff with this. And I think this is very much like Apple entering other spaces, with the phone particularly. And I think there'll be some companies that play with it. I'm really curious if Apple, particularly Google and even Meta, start finding ways to work with this, because people talk about like the rising tide lifting all boats in the industry, that this is in a lot of ways the presence of a $3,500 Vision Pro headset makes the idea of a Quest 3 seem really reasonable. And well, you could get that, and so it's actually not a threat. Maybe it's helpful, and you already can use some Apple products like the iPhone and things with Meta. Maybe these things will dovetail a bit, but hopefully.
And then
But not right now. Yeah.
We're almost at time at 12, but I'm going to ask you one more question. And then, I know time flies, and people had so many questions about
I could do this for another 35 hours if anyone wants to just keep hanging out forever to do this.
Hey, if you guys want, Scott is on a bunch of social platforms. We'll give them to you in a few. But a last question I have for you is from Instagram. Mansers asked, can you drag a window, start walking, and hold the app window while you're walking? Like you're holding a virtual smartphone or tablet in the air?
Yes. And so that's a good question. I need to do more of this, but you can. It's so weird. So I was using it in my office, then I went to the bathroom, and then I just dragged the window with me and took it to me while I went to the bathroom. Honestly, that's just what I did. And yeah, it floated there, and then I dragged it back. But it's also weird because much like the Quest, it's the same thing the Quest does. That if you walk to another room, you can see through the walls, basically. And, you could see that the window is still hanging out in your office. So it doesn't leave the space that you were in, because this doesn't do any room setup. That's the other weird thing. There's no room setup. So it just kind of leaves things wherever and just keeps track of space somehow. And so I just had to look over. I tried to open a browser and I was like, where is it? Oh, it's in the office over there. I see it through the wall. Or I see it floating over there. So I had to grab it and drag it, or tell Siri to close it. So yes, I'm curious how that will work throughout my entire house. More to come on that.
Yeah, Scott has, for anyone joining us, we are wrapping up this live, a Q&A with our VR of over 10 years experience, Scott Stein. And I almost lost my train of thought. But
I did too.
We were on TikTok, he has a review, basically. That's what I was getting to. He has a review. We're going to have more videos to come on all of our platforms, on social and on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram. So definitely stay tuned for more, and also check those out if you haven't already, because we feel bad. We can't show you guys exactly what he means or what he's touching or can see with field of view and just the screens itself, but you can get a look there. And for Scott too, let's also say the pricing of this stuff because it was an Apple Vision Pro, at least basic pricing. It's $3,500.
Yep,
Because
it's
someone asked about the extra
$3,500.
battery, the case.
Yeah, there's
That's
a lot more. I'm going to put this on again as I talk because it's fun. I'm entering my passcode. So when you do this, you have to or you can reach out and tap the passcode. It's just like any other Apple device. You got to enter the passcode when you come back in. Then it has to connect my AirPods, which I'm not going to do because I'm using them for the TikTok Live. But the price basically starts. No, I don't want to remove that app. As I'm gesturing, I'm accidentally doing things. So the price starts at $3,500 for the headset with 256 gigabytes of storage. And it's got the battery, it's got 2 straps, 2 face pads at different thicknesses, and the cozy and the charge cable. But the case is $200, which again, you don't need it, but you got to have some, I think you'd want some way to protect it. You could just keep it on your desk. If you want to increase the storage, it's $200 per storage tier. So $200 to get to 512, $200 to get to 1 terabyte. Then there's Apple Care Plus, which I think is $500. I'm remembering this. Then if you want to get if you want to get prescription lenses, it's $100 or $150 for reader or prescription Zeiss inserts. Then there's Apple Care. I just mentioned that. Then there's extra face pad stuff. Like if you want to share this with people, you might want to get that light seal. I think is $200. Just that little piece between the face padding and the headset. The actual face pads are like $30. The straps, I believe Bridget was saying, I think they're $100 each. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff here that adds up. Like you easily will probably walk out spending $4,000 because between if you're getting Apple Care, or you're getting a case, or you're getting something else. So it's just a lot. It just keeps adding up. And then, by the way, you're going to want to buy apps. Like there's like services. Some of the apps get expensive. I've seen some things in there that are $20, $30, $50 for one. Some of them are just $2. It's unclear where the prices are going to fall. And some things like HBO Max, which is on this, or Max, the premium tier is the only one that you get the super immersive Dolby Atmos stuff in. So you have to pay up to the extra subscription tier. So in a way, is it going to be premium headset, premium products, premium subscriptions? It could be because that's where this is kind of aiming for. So I just wanted to bring up that there are definitely added costs with this headset.
I don't know about spending $3,500 on that, but I give people credit that can.
Let me be absolutely clear, because I said this in the review. I would not recommend that family or friends or people I know buy the headset. It's way too much money. It is fascinating. It is often amazing in terms of what it's showing as an experience. By all means, what you do is you get a demo, and I think that's what Apple is counting on, is that you'd be blown away by the demo. But go for the demo, see the cool stuff, think about it. But in the meantime, a Quest 3 is a really great way to dive into a ton of things. And to me, that is the $500 thing you get that plays with mixed reality. That's not the Vision Pro. Plus, it does fitness, because I do fitness in VR, and it's how I've been focusing on getting healthier. And I love it. It's supernatural. A lot of people I know do it. And we didn't even talk about this, but the Quest Pro does not have fitness. It has a couple of meditation apps, but there's no integration with heart rate on Apple Watch or anything like that. I don't think you should walk around a lot with this. So I think that's a huge part of what VR is to me right now, weirdly enough, is active fitness games. And that's missing here too. So what I would say is this is a fascinating product, but just I want to see what else it turns into as well.
Thank you so much, Scott, and thank you everyone on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for bearing with us some technical difficulties in the beginning and just hanging with us with Scott. We may have to bring you back for another one. People love all this. So,
great.
Scott
We'll
Stein,
do a follow-up.
check 3 months later.
Great.
And you can find Scott on X, right? Instagram.
Yeah, find me on Threads. I need friends on Threads, so come sign up there, and I'll be your Threads buddy.
Scott
and
recently
I'm
working
still
on his TikTok too.
Yeah, I'm working on my TikTok. Apologies. I'm trying to. Yeah. So where I want friends are over on TikTok and Threads and Instagram, but also I'm on X. That's where I still have a lot of people that interact with me there and things. So, yeah. So that's how to
But
find me.
yeah,
Also on CNET. So
yes, be sure to check out his articles. I'm sure more to come and videos again on our socials and YouTube and everything. So yeah, we're just gonna, I guess, wrap this up. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for joining us.